Today's lesson is the first lesson on percentages, and it's an introduction on how to represent a percent. So please update your table of contents to include topic 3 vocab and page 33 where representing percentages, the note sheet will go. So these are the vocab sheets that should be added to page 32, but we won't be filling in the blanks for these vocab until later lessons. So topic 3 is about understanding and using percentages. So just to talk about where percents are used outside of school, there's a lot of places, and in class we brainstorm different ways. But here there's a meme about paying rent and bills, also about student loans, and taxes are one of the ways a percent is really going to affect your life someday. Other ideas students usually come up with: battery life on a cell phone, it will be a percent, a loading screen on the computer or on a video game, and then just sales and discounts in stores, and a lot of other places that percents are used outside of the classroom. So a percent is a type of comparison, and a unit rate, just to compare, is something that is per one. So a unit rate is like $13 per one movie, or you could have 60 miles per 1 hour. So a unit rate has that per in it. So when we think about percent, the key thing here is it's per cent. The second part being cent. So let's think about other words that have the word cent in them. Well, cents, when you think about money, or century. So century has cent at the beginning. And in Spanish, cien is very close to our version of cent. So per cent, if you think of cents, is in regards to money, equal to 1/100th of a dollar. So there are 100 pennies in a dollar. So think about it like that. So it's per 100, cent being 100. So we could also write it like this as a fraction: something per 100. So looking at the word century, per cent, for century, the Latin word here, cent, is 100, a period of 100 years. So once again, per 100, or written as a fraction, per 100. And then last but not least, in Spanish, cien is the Spanish word for 100. So per cent, per cien, per 100. So written as a fraction, something per 100. This is a key concept with percent. So therefore, how could we write the following percents as fractions? 33% would be 33 over 100. 2% would be 2 over 100. And what do you think 105% would be? Well, 105 per or over 100. So here's our note sheet. You need to fill in this value here. Percent is the same thing as per 100. And then we're going to be looking at the right side. So 100% is a whole. What's half of 100%? Well, 100 divided into 2 equal pieces would be 50%. And what is 100 split into 4 equal pieces? Or 50% divided in half is 25% each. And the last one here is 10 equal pieces. So 100 split into 10 equal parts would be 10%. So how much of a percent is this? That would be 30%. 30 over 100, 30%. Here, this would be 75%, 75 over 100. So we're going to be using this concept of percents as bar models, in order to do the examples in the notes on the inside. So we start off with 20% of 75. That's example 1. That could be something like finding a 20% tip or gratuity for a $75 restaurant bill. So just showing you what finding 20% of 75 could represent. So it's percent per 100. So on the bottom of our bar model, we're going to represent the percent part. So the whole is 100, nothing is 0%. And then we're going to split this into what would 20% would be. So 20%, 100 divided by 20 means there would be 5 equal pieces. So thinking of it like this way, if we're going to split it into 20s, we would need 5. And that's why there's these little lines on your notes so that you can draw these 5 equal pieces. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So therefore, and in class I'll show this just vertically, because sometimes vertically makes more sense to people. So we're going to write 20. 20 more would be 40, then 60, and then 80. So we've split up 100% into 20s. Then 20% is the part out of the whole amount, which is 100. So in our proportion, 20% will go on top and 100 will go on the bottom. Now, of 75 means we're going to take a part, 20%, of a whole, 75. So 75 is the total amount, which is matching up with 100%. Because if I said, what's 100% of 75, you would get 75. So therefore, 75 is the whole amount. So 75 lines up with 100% in the denominator of your proportion, of your fractions. So 0% of 75 is 0. If we split 75 into 5 equal parts, okay, because this is split into 5 equal parts, 75 divided by 5 is 15. So we'd have 15, 30, 45. What would this one be? 45 plus 50 more is 60. So therefore, 20% of 75 is 15. So that here tells us our answer is 15. Now to use the proportion method, okay, our answer is 15. To use the proportion method, we're going to do 20% of 75. So to go from 20 to 100, 20 times 5 is 100. To go this way, 100 divided by 5 is 20. But this method isn't always going to work because sometimes we're going to have a number here that doesn't evenly go into 100. So the best method that will always work is doing 20 divided by 100 and getting the decimal version. So that means here, instead of saying divided by 5, kind of like what we do with scale factor, you're going to do times 0.2. Now, whatever we do to one side of the fraction, we must do to the other. So if we do times 0.2 over here, we need to do times 0.2 over here. 75 times 0.2, or 75 divided by 5, or 75 times 20% as a decimal is 15. And that's the answer we already got. So we know we are correct. Now we're below the bar model where it says 1B, and this is going to ask us for 80% of 75. Well, if we look at our bar model and we go to 80%, which is down here, then 80% of 75 is 60, and there's our answer. So bar model, it's already done. Now the proportion, 80% is 80 out of 100. So this is the part over the whole. And over here, 75 is the whole amount, like we had up in our bar model. And so we're going to use our relationship here. So 80 over 100 is the same thing as 80 divided by 100. So that's equal to 0.8. So if we do times 0.8 to this side, 100 times 0.8 is 80. So 75 times 0.8 is 60. And so make sure, please, you have the proportion method done, and you could draw an arrow up here to show the bar model also. This could represent 80% of a 75-person company are able to go on the trip. Okay, so how many people are going on the trip? If 80% out of a total of 75 people are allowed to go, 60 people. So 1C is find 30% of 75. So up here, the common mistake is this here, thinking that 40 is the answer. This up here is not the percent. Down here is the percent. So if we want to use the bar model, we have to figure out what the value is between 20 and 40, which is 30. So what's the value that's between 15 and 30? So if you split 15 into 2 equal pieces to figure out how far halfway is, you will get 7.5. 15 plus 7.5 is 22.5. So the answer is 22.5. But most people would find it simpler to use the proportion method for this one. So the part is 30% over the whole, which is 100%. So 30 over 100. And then once again, the whole on this problem is 75. So to figure out what we multiply here, 30 divided by 100 is equivalent to 0.3. So times 0.3 on both sides, 75 times 0.3 is 22.5. And there's our answer. This would be the type of problem where you'd find a 30% discount on a $75 jacket. The answer represents $22.50 of savings. So the discount saves you $22.50. Now we're on to example 2. You'll notice the bar model is not drawn for you, and we're going to be doing find 25% of 24. So if we need to find 25% and we need to draw a bar model for 25%, we need 4 equal pieces. So looking over here, it's like this one. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4 equal pieces that are 25% each. So I'd recommend drawing a box, a box, a box, a box that are about the same size. We're going to have 0%, 100%, and then 25, 50, and 75. Now, over on the proportion side, we have 25%, so 25 over 100. And then we're doing of 24, so 25% of 24. That means 100% of 24 is 24. 0% of 24 is 0. And over here on the proportion side, 100% of 24 is 24. So that lines up with the 100 on the proportion. Now I've already clicked, and 24 split into 4 equal pieces would mean we need to do 6, 12, and 18. And we're trying to find 25% of 24, which is this one here. So the answer is 6. And then just making sure we're able to use the proportion method. We could do 25 times 4 is 100, or 100 divided by 4. But the method that will always work is converting your percent to a decimal. 25 over 100, 25 divided by 100 is the same as 0.25, which is like a quarter. So times 0.25, 24 times 0.25 is 6. This could be, what could 25%? Oh, this is a question I ask in class. So you could have a 25% discount on something that cost $24. You could have that you lost 25% in taxes on your paycheck of $24. $24 not being a very big paycheck, but it could happen. Okay, 2B, 70% of 24. The answer is 16.8. So see if you can get that. So pause the video and see if you can solve it to get that and know where the math goes. So on this one, we have 70%, so 70 over 100, and then 24 is the whole value. So to convert 70 over 100 to a decimal, we do 70 divided by 100, which is 0.7, 7 tenths. So that's times 0.7, 24 times 0.7, and that's how you get 16.8. And right down here, I write the bar model on the whiteboard. Most students don't care about the bar model on this one. 2C, find 8% of 24. So pause the video and please try it. The answer is 1.92. So we have 8%, 8 over 100, and 24 being the whole value. Now this time around, be careful. 8 divided by 100 is 0.08, not 0.8. So I repeat, it is 0.08. If you do 0.8, that's 80%. So you do need the 0 here. And then you do 24 times 0.08 and you get 1.92. And this, by the way, could represent sales tax, because our sales tax is it's a little over 8% in Martinez. So 8% of 24, this would be how much sales tax is added to an item that costs $24. And these are some more challenging ones, but usually in class we don't get to them because they're too challenging, or we actually run out of time.